Hello and welcome to another episode of Hollywood Knitter. My name is Allison and I am your host. I'm recording on Saturday, June 8th, 2019 from my home in Los Angeles, California. And it's been a while. It's probably been 7 weeks. Had a lot happening the last 2 weeks and I didn't get a chance to record, but I think I'm back into a bit of a groove and I have a fair amount of knitting and stuff to share. So I thought I would sit down today, catch up, take the time to say hi. Hi, everybody. All right, FOs. Let's start with FOs. Let's jump right into it. I'll talk about stuff later, but biggest thing I finished is The Love of Spiders by Melanie Berg. This is a paid-for pattern shawl, and I think it was part of, gosh, I can't remember, like one of those kits that they do with like storybooks and stuff. I think it was based on like Charlotte's Web kind of thing. I can't remember the company that did it, but I originally started this on March 23rd, and I had started it with a gray and this maroon, and there wasn't enough contrast. I'd gotten through all of the top part, and was into this kind of cool slip stitchy. Here, as I try to put it closer to you without whatever, this slip stitchy kind of pattern, and it just was not enough contrast. So I ripped it out, picked another yarn, and started back up again on April 19th, and I finished on May 20th. So the yarns that I went with, this maroon is Forbidden Fibers Babel, which is an 80-10-10 yarn and called Fuchsia Fish. And then the white was actually from my advent calendar last year, Suburban Stitcher Sock 75-25 and Jelly of the Month, and I really like how it looks together. You can see that Jelly of the Month has like little kind of light pops of green and the same kind of fuchsia, and I think it really goes well. I followed, it's kind of warm, but I'll wear it for a little while. I followed the pattern except the end. I actually had a fair amount of left. I think I had like 10% left on both of them. I think I used, of the fuchsia, like 360 yards, and of the Jelly of the Month, like 370 yards. So I had enough to kind of, I just did, the only extra was I did these extra 4 rows to add 2 lines of this white pop for the border. And that's it. The other modification is one I did, it's not really a modification, I think it's kind of a option I see in a lot of shawls, but in order to not have a kind of tight top or crescent kind of border, I did a yarn over at the beginning of each row and then dropped it on the next one. The only other modification I wish I had done is it actually called for you to carry the other opposite color at the top, and I wish at least for this section, these solid sections, that I had just cut and woven in. I did it for the first one, and you can't even tell, but when I hold it up, and it's not showing as much on here, but when I hold it up, I can see it. Not that it's gonna bother me enough, but a little bit. Anyway, so this again is The Love of Spiders by Melanie Berg, and I really like it. I'm not sure if I'm gonna keep it. Right now, I think it's gonna go into my gift box. I like the drape of it. I blocked it fairly, actually, I did an okay job blocking it because I have an old Knit Picks blocking board and it's too old now. Like the foam in it is like hard as a rock. I can't even put pins in it. And I pulled that out to do this on, and yeah, so I wasn't able to get the pins in, and so therefore they were kind of haphazard, and so my edges are kind of a little wavy, but it's okay. And this was one of my Make 9 projects, so I'm really excited. I wanted to get older stash out, which I did with the fuchsia. Fortunately, I wasn't able to use the other gray I wanted, but I'm happy I had something in my stash. I'm just playing with this. Sorry, I'll just wear it like this. It's a little warm, but. So that was my first one. The second project I finished on Baby Gifts. I was doing a little baby hat last time I talked to you, and I finished that hat. It was called Seventh by Kelly Von Kierk, and it was just a simple hat with some random mystery yarn I picked up at Soft Yarn. I picked up at Knockers Retreat in the D-Stash room, and I had enough yarn left over that I actually did a pair of baby booties, and that was the seamless baby booties. And I finished those at the end of April, and I've already gifted them to my boyfriend's niece. But I will put a picture in of the little set right here. So that was an easy set to do. The other thing I finished was the charity hat I was working on, and this was Mystery D-Stash from the Knockers Retreat, and I kind of just made up a pattern as I went along and alternated 2 colors. This looks like a hand spunny, and then this green I did in pearl, and yeah, it's just going to be a charity hat that I'll give next year. It's very warm, I'll give it that. I could wear it and be like all the knits today. I can't knit it because my hair's high ponytail. But that was a charity hat I finished. The last kind of spur of the moment project that I sort of just cast on is I've had in my, I don't know, my queue for a long time to make a tea cozy for my teapot at home. And one day I just decided to do it. It only took me a day. So here is my little teapot, and it's a loose leaf teapot, and I can't remember, it's from For Life. And I usually, this makes like 2 large cups of tea. And I picked up some socks yarn, big ball I had of something, and actually I think this was from the D-Stash room up in Knockers too. And I held it double, and I used a pattern called the Tea Mitten by Elizabeth Cleven as a template. But my teapot was different because my circumference was a lot smaller, but I used that sort of as a kind of a stepping off, and then kind of just adjusted as I went. So I'm gonna take it off. It's really cute. It has little 2 buttons. So you start at the bottom and you knit up, and then you create the pocket for your handle, and you create a flap. I'm gonna take it off. And you create a little pocket, and then a little flap that you put some buttons on. And these are just some buttons from my button stash thing. And then I definitely had to adjust because my opening for this is much high, and there's really not a lot of, it doesn't come out a lot like the one that was done in the pattern. So I just kept trying it on. You know, I did a quick, how I adjusted it is I basically measured the circumference and some of the major dimensions. So like where I needed to, you know, how much this came out, how high I needed before this length. And yeah, so I adjusted it and came up with this cool little tea cozy. Now, I have to say I like the idea of tea cozies, but because I make a fair amount of tea and I use this a lot, I don't like the taking of the on and off of the tea cozy because, well, right now I'm not even doing it very well at all because it doesn't go on and off super easy. And so I've been actually leaving it on and just getting it wet and letting it dry on the teapot. And yeah, but there we go. It's cute and I'm happy with it. As I said, I'm not going to make another tea cozy for a while. I'll keep this one, and then if I don't actually like it, then, you know, it was one day and some scrap yarn from a tea stash, so I didn't really lose anything in doing it. And the scrap yarn is kind of scrap sock yarn. I loved how it looked. It's kind of striped being held double, so it was really nice. So that is the Tea Mitten by Elizabeth Cleven, but as I said, that was a jumping off point. The last FO I have are my JC Float Trip socks, I'm calling them. And this is a pair of socks from my boyfriend. I did them toe up following the Sock Mortician's toe up pattern. And the stripe is Show Me Yarn Boot Heel, which is an 80-20 and Float Trip, which is why I call them the Float Trip socks. And then this orange was a random mini skein contrasting that I used for toes, heels, cuffs. I don't do too much of a cuff. And then I just did a broken kind of rib pattern. So yeah. He likes them really tall because he likes to wear them as boots. So, and he's a size 12, 11. So these are 72 stitches around. And I think I went up to 78 on the leg or something like that. And I started these in April and I finished them June 1st, end of April. So it took me about a month. And it was a fair amount of knitting. I did a lot when I was traveling. I had some trips. So yeah. So those are my FOs. Excuse me as I crack open a LaCroix. This is Pamplemousse. I really like this kind of LaCroix and all those kind of brands. When I was actually visiting the family, I got some of the Buble kind, but a grapefruit kind, and my mom did not like it at all. Yeah, she's like, it's not sweet. And I said, no, it's like an essence of it, but it's water. And she was not her thing. Okay, so that was my FO parade. I'm gonna take this shawl off because I'm getting warm. My FO parade. Let me kind of fold it up. The other thing I noticed that when I blocked it, oh wow, you can totally see this now more. The edges are totally different. Like, yeah, one is way longer than the other, and I know that has to do with the holding of that yarn at the top kept the edge from stretching as much as this one was able to stretch when I blocked it. So one thing I note when I reblock it, not to stretch out that top as much. But when you're wearing it, you can't tell as much. Or at all, probably. Okay. So, right before I was scheduled to travel, I kind of had a cast on party. And so I have a few things I'm knitting on right now. The biggest thing is a garment, and this is the Asagi Tee by Bristol Ivy. It's a paid for pattern, and this is actually a pattern my friend Martha had done and actually had a group of her friends do last year, the year before, because they do a lot of knit-alongs. And I had picked up this yarn as Jill Draper Makes Stuff Esopos? I think it's a discontinued yarn from her. So regardless, it's 100% fingering, and the colorway is leaf. And there was some at ZK, I think the 716 Trek was selling it 2 years ago. And I picked up 3 skeins to make this project specifically. And it's a very simple stockinette tee. You can't really tell because I have a bunch on the needles, but it's a V-neck, and the only kind of detail it has is at the top of the, let's see if I can show this. At the top of the sleeve, it's got a little lace detail. It does have some interesting construction, or at least for the starting of it, how you kind of did the back, and then you actually do this detail, and then you pick it up and knit down, and then before joining it all together. I'm obviously at the join all together part, and I have to do another like 13 inches. I was hoping to have this done by ZK, but in reality, I think this will probably be ZK knitting unless I get a move on and do, 12 inches of stockinette in the next 2 weeks. Highly unlikely, but it is really good group knitting because it literally is just stockinette, finger and stockinette in the round, on and on and on. I'm loving the color. The only change I really did is this one. This t-shirt called for a lot of ease, and in my t-shirts, like the one I'm wearing now, I don't like a lot of ease. So I think it called for 6 to 8 inches of ease, and instead I chose a size that's going to give me about 2 inches of ease. So I need to do a little more because I just joined All Around Under the Bus not that long ago, like, I don't know, yesterday or the day before, or before that, but I've only done an inch, and I want to do another inch or two, and then I'm going to kind of try it on. But I'm happy to be knitting it, and I'm doing it in my home row bag, which I love this bag. How cute is this bag? I picked that up at Stitches West last year. So that's the Asagi by Bristol Ivy, and as I said, my goal had been to have it done in mid-June, but now my goal is to have it done by the end of June. I also cast on for a hat, though I haven't done too much, and this is the Beeswax hat by Amy Vandelier. It's just a cute kind of honeycomb pattern, and I have the project in my bee bag by the Fat Squirrel, Amy Beth, and my yarn I have is my friend Dizzy Blonde Studios, and her Jane colorway. So this is actually inspired by Firefly. I haven't really got too far, pretty much just the ribbing, and I've just started into it, though I do notice that my cast on almost looks too loose, if that is possible. See how it's kind of flary, which I don't necessarily like. I actually probably need to try this on. I have a big head, so, but it might be too loose. Awesome. See, things you learn when you look at things. I will look at that after this podcast and see if I need to tear it out and redo it. It might be that I'm not sure. I had cast it on and I had done that ribbing and that was it. And I hadn't really touched it in a little while. I did that at the end of May. The other project I have gotten a fair amount done on is I cast on, or I brought yarn, cast on for another pair of socks because I knew I was going to finish my boyfriend's socks, and I wanted to have another socks, at least in the wings to start, and I wanted it to be more mindless than this, because even this broken rib, although fairly mindless, isn't as mindless as Stockinette in the Round. So I went into my stash of kind of leftover balls, and I pulled out 2 yarns that I picked up as a door prize at ZK either last year or the year before, 2 years ago, I think. And these are 3 Irish Girls Adoring Lux, which is an 85-15, and the Ants Go Marching and Capture the Flag colorway. These were goodie bag yarns that I had knit into a Kimba 2 years ago, and I didn't like the Kimba, and I ripped it out about 6 months afterwards. It's a shape I didn't like, but I picked up these 2 colors, and I'm just doing a pair of shorty socks, and this first one is done. The blue is a toe, and then I just kind of did little striping detail, and then the foot, and then did the heel. I chose the Sockmaticians. I'm really liking that turned heel on his project, on his pattern. So I've been using it, and then I just did a twisted rib, cast it off, and have a shorty sock. And on the second one, I've started the toe. That's it. I gotta get past the toe so I can get back into the stockinette part and the mindless part. And I have this in a kitchen counter crafter, Jenny's owl bag, which I like, which unlike all my other ones kind of match. This one doesn't match at all, but I love this bag. The last FO I have today, I cast on May 22nd as part of my cast on itis weekend when I cast all these projects on, and I have not done hardly anything on it. But previously, my boyfriend had requested stripes, like vertical striped socks. And I was like, okay, I can figure out how to do that. It'd probably be in Target, and I don't think there's a picture with this. But I found a pattern called Striped Tees, which basically involves knitting from the cuff down and then knitting in stripes. So right now I've cast on for the cuff, and then I'm going to do 6 strips and strips around. And yeah, and to kind of create this cool kind of color thing, I'm using a gradient. This is Fierce Fibers. This is actually Pandora, a merino cashmere nylon blend, and Tide Pods that Color Heatwave picked out. So this is gonna make some funky socks and an interesting construction. I'll have to show you more as I go because I'm definitely intrigued, which is why I started it. But as I said, all I have is a cuff and a little bit of the first strip. And I haven't really worked on it too much. Probably will wait until, I don't know, we'll see if it will wait. So those are all of my whips. The next kind of big project that as soon as I finish the Asagi that I want to cast on is I'm thinking of my Rhinebeck sweater. I am pretty sure I'm going to use the yak yarns that I got from the Kickstarter last year, which are like browns, whites, and yeah, another color. And then I'm just trying to figure out the sweater. But I do need to cast it on in July if I'm going to have it ready by October, since I'm a fairly slowish knitter when it comes to fingering. And this is going to be a fingering, either the fingering or the DK weight sweater. And so it will take a little bit, or sport weight rather, not DK. Other than that, the big thing that's happened and why I had a fair amount of knitting time is I know I'd mentioned that my father was sick and he actually took a turn for the worse. He had been in the hospital for a long time and then came out of the hospital and basically was put into hospice care. So he was doing fairly well after he got out, but then he took a turn. So I had to go and see short notice in May, I don't know, mid-May, to basically go see him and say goodbye, and that was tough. And I was there for about 5 or 6 days, and then came back, and then he passed about a week later. And I had already had the trip planned to go over Memorial Day because it was my niece's 9th birthday and my nephew was graduating from high school, and the timing of it, then we were able actually to have my dad's services during that same week. So that has been kind of heavy and tough and sad, and yeah, all the things you go through, losing anyone who's close to you. As I said, he'd had a long illness. It wasn't unexpected, but still tough to deal with. But I want to put a special thank you. I put something on Instagram, and some people had known just because they had seen me that he was sick. I was really touched by everybody who reached out, texted me, sent a card, sent things. Very, very sweet. Yeah, it's just when your friends are far flung, and I am not the most demonstrative, I guess would say, and although I didn't need any help, I was fine. You know, I did have a day or two I was really bad, but I had my family and things like that, and I didn't need any extra help. I wasn't struggling as badly, but it was nice that, you know, people put it out there if I needed to talk, if I needed anything, to let them know, and that was awesome. It's always nice when you see a demonstration of that we're all human and we all care, and different people, you know, reached out. So it was nice to spend so much time with my family. I saw, because when my dad was the last few weeks, a lot of his brothers and sisters, he's one of 12, came by, cousins. So even the days I was there, I mean, I've seen aunts and uncles that I haven't seen in 25 years since I went to college, basically, or even before that. So that was nice to kind of say hi and touch base with people. Pretty much everyone just knows I'm the girl who went to California. So unfortunately, as sad as the occasion was, it was nice to see, you know, cousins who tells me stories about when they babysat me when I was 3 and 4, and different things, different news stories that I hadn't heard about my dad, in the life he led, and yeah. So, and then my niece, as I said, turned 9, and she is a mini, I don't want to say goth, she's not quite that bad, but she's definitely tomboy and wants to wear black all the time, and which is funny when my sister would like her to wear something that's not black. We spent a lot of time watching a lot of horror movies. giant horror fan, almost to the point where some of the things that we watch are probably not age appropriate. But she just can't get enough of gore. She just can't. And no one in the family will really watch the scary movies with her because they all get scared. So we watched probably a scary movie every night. Some of them were scary because we just sort of looked at Netflix. There was one that was stupid, not really scary, and, you know, different layers of scary. She prefers the more, like, we watched a Killer Clown one that was a B movie. Awesome. It was so awful. It was awesome. So that was fun hanging out with her. She just does love to just hang out, which we do a lot of. And then my nephew, you know, graduated from high school. He doesn't have plans yet. He's one of those who doesn't really want to go to school right now, and so it doesn't make sense. However, he doesn't know what he wants to do, but he has to get a job. So we'll see how he does. I owe him, and I've been saying for years that when he graduated from high school, I would take him on a trip somewhere in the world. He doesn't have a preference, so I think we're probably going to go to Europe. I think since he hasn't done international travel, we'll keep it semi-safe because he's not as, let's say, not outgoing, but I don't want to shock him too much. So we will go to, I'm thinking of the UK, of just going to London and then maybe down in Italy, and for like a week or something. So I'm going to try to do that in the fall, maybe September, or maybe a little later, we'll see. The only other trip I have planned is I'm going to Zombie Apocalypse in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks. I'm really excited about that. I get to see a bunch of friends and hang out. Though I have to say, work right now is extremely crazy. I'm at the critical time for my construction project, meaning it should be done by now, and it's not. And we're working like crazy to get things started and tested. And with my time away, I'm just slammed, just overload. But just getting through it one day at a time. One day at a time. And luckily I am part of a great team, and when I had to take time off, they were able to step in and keep things going, which I greatly appreciated. The other trip is Rhinebeck, is in October, which is awesome. Yeah, that's kind of it. I hope everyone is doing really well. If you want to find me, I'm Allison1031 on Instagram and Ravelry. And hopefully if you are at ZK, come say hi. And everyone, just hug your loved ones. That's my big thing these days. Just tell them you hug them, tell them you love them. Because you never know. You never know. That's really what it comes down to. You never know how long we have with our loved ones. Anyways, I hope everyone is having a wonderful summer. I hope June is treating you well. You know, kids are getting out of school, and it's summer. The weather's heating up here in the US, and I need to make more summer plans. Originally, we weren't making plans because my dad was sick, but I think I might try to go see the family again maybe in August. I did not get to experience the pool while I was there. They had not opened the pool yet because it was still too cold and they were doing different activities. So I think I might try to go do a family visit in August, and maybe I would be able to get out and see people a little more than I did this last time. All right, that's kind of all I have. I want to thank you guys for joining me. Probably be another month or so before you see another episode. And I just, excuse me. I am going to end with That's a Wrap from Hollywood, where fantasy meets fiber and dreams are knit. Bye, everybody.